Hello, fellow peasants. Today I'm going to be talking about my favorite Scream movies.
Alright guys, so I've always been a fan of the Scream franchise. I'm a bigger fan of the Scream trilogy. So let's get into it. Back in the day when I was an early teenager, the Scream movies were hip. They were cool. They were they brought back the slasher franchise in the 90s. Everybody loved them. They were just super hip, super cool, edgy, smart, and it's what got me into the horror genre. It's what made me want to make scary movies. It's what made me want to keep watching scary movies and start watching scary movies. So I'm a big fan of Scream, to say the least. And so let's go through the 5 films. Obviously, Scream 6 comes out next year. But I'm going to... I'm a little late to the game on this. But I'm going to do my ranking. So I'm going to do the 5 films that are out now. And so coming in at number 5 is Scream 2022. Also known as Scream 5. I was not impressed by Scream 5 at all. I didn't like the motive, and I will give reasons for that. To me, the motive needs to be more personal. It needs to make sense. I wanted it to be attached to Sidney somehow. I know the requels or the prequels. The requels are really big right now, where it's a reboot, but it's really a sequel. You know, but... the motive was just horrible. Their motive was basically the stab movies suck, and so we want to go back and restart the whole thing over by mimicking the acts of the first stab movie. But the first stab movie is really based off the first Scream movie. The first murders there in the first Scream movie. So very boring, not very original. Now, in terms of them, you know, spoofing prequels, if their job was to make fun of requels, the reboot, requel, whatever. If their job was to make fun of requels, I can jump in with that. But in terms of the story of Sidney Prescott and all of that, they failed to deliver on that. I wanted something a little more personal. The motive was just dog shit to me. I didn't care about the characters. The cinematography looked like something out of fucking Hallmark. Didn't like it. Cheap production. I could tell that the main 3, Dewey, Courtney, and... Dewey, Gale, and Sidney were phoning it in on this. Neve Campbell and Courtney Cox were, it was cheesy. They were phoning it in. I wasn't feeling it. My 4th favorite movie in the franchise is Scream 4. Scream 4 is okay. It's a good sequel. I liked it. It's still tied to Sidney. I like that, you know, her cousin's jealous of her, kind of wanted the spotlight, and she wants to become YouTube famous, you know, so I kind of like that. And it was kind of a requel before requels were requels, you know, because it had the new cast, but then it had the legacy characters in there, like Gale and Stewie and all of them, and so, 4 was good. I mean, a lot of the kills were good in it. It was a bit darker than the number 3. A lot darker than number 3, actually. And the violence was good. The acting was good. I mean, it was shot by Wes Craven. So it's not going to be a horrible, horrible movie. But to me, as good as Scream 4 was, it wasn't needed. We didn't need a 4th film, in my opinion. And that's kind of a controversial thing to say, but nobody needed a Scream 4. The story was told perfectly in Scream 3. Scream 3 wraps up nicely with the door open at the end and Sidney looking at it like, oh, I better shut that. But then she realizes, oh, all the killers are gone. I don't need to. And then it ends on that. Perfect ending. So 4 to me, great flick. It wastes a couple hours, maybe hour and a half of my time. It's entertaining, but that doesn't mean that it needed to be made. It didn't add anything to the story that was substantial that we didn't have before. Number 3 on my list is Scream 3. So far, all the movies are in order. Scream 3 really missed its calling, I think. I know a lot of people put it dead last in their list. I don't put it dead last. I like Scream 3. I think it's hip, it's a little more meta than I would like because there's the actors playing the actors in the movie and this and that. And it's not as hardcore and violent as the other entries in the franchise. But it does have something to offer, I think. And I think that is an excellent third part. I really do think the end scene where Sidney shows up to the house and her brother's in there and the reveal happens and he's got the bulletproof vest and the fight scene and all that between her and Roman is really cool. I really appreciate it. It's hip. It's Kevin Williams. Kevin Williamson's writing is all over that scene. I don't know if he wrote all of the movie, but you can definitely tell in the beginning scene and the end scene of Scream 3, they nail it. Like the opening scene where Cotton's getting killed, awesome. One of the top moments for me in the whole franchise. And like I said, the third act in Scream 3 is awesome. It's one of the best. It's one of the best parts of the franchise as well. Now, it is debatable. They're in the middle, Everything in between the opening and the ending can be debated as to whether it's horrible or not. But I think that the opening and the ending of Scream 3 are so good that it beats Scream 4 and 5 alone, just on those scenes alone. Next is going to be super controversial. My number 2 favorite Scream film of all time. I am ranking it. Number 2, Scream from 1995. The original Scream is my number 2 choice. And the reason for this is I just don't enjoy it as much as I enjoy, obviously, number 2 is my number 1. But I'll get into what I like about number 2 later. Number 1, Scream 1 is very good. It's shot very well. I like the characters. It's what started the franchise. It's what, kick-started the slasher franchise all over again in the 90s. It's a great movie. But I just don't... It doesn't have the drive and the oomph that number 2 has. There seems to be more on the line in number 2. Number 1 is great. Like I said, it's a classic. It started it all with this franchise, but I just it loses by a hair to number 2. Number 1 is obviously Scream 2. Scream 2 is my favorite because it's edgy, it's funny, it's dark, it's meta. They talk a lot about the sequels. Randy, them talking about how sequels are never better than the originals and this and that, and they get into T2 and aliens and all that in the classroom. So I really enjoy that. I enjoy that the stakes are upped. Randy gets killed. They're on college campus. It's a little more mature. The film doesn't look as dated as number one. That's another thing. Number one looks, super 90s, the haircuts and the pants and stuff. Scream 2 was a little more hip, you know what I mean? The haircuts were a little bit better, the clothing was a little more fashionable, and they look more age appropriate considering the actors are in their mid-20s in Scream 2, and technically they're in their early to mid-20s playing high school students in Scream 1. So it just all fits together better in Scream 2. It comes together for me. I like the funny parts. Me and my cousin always used to love the part where the security guards are in the car and Ghostface gets in. Somehow one of the guys gets out of the car and Ghostface is in the driver's seat, and the guy goes, "Get out of the car, you fucker!" And then Ghostface hits the gas, runs over the guy, the pipe goes through his head. I mean, that's just classic shit. That's just classic. Yeah, I just like Scream 2 better. I don't have it down to a science why. It just entertains me more than number one. And yeah, so I'll do another ranking next year when Scream 6 comes out. I will watch it. I'll be honest with you guys, I did not buy Scream 5. I own the first 4 movies. I disliked 5 so much, I don't even know if... I just can't stomach paying $26 for a 4K version of that movie. I just don't care to own it right now. I could change my mind in the future, and maybe I'll go and buy it. But I don't know. Just didn't feel it. Just didn't care. And in my opinion, the first 3 movies are the only 3 that really matter. 4 and 5 just don't need to exist. I think they are pointless. So I know that's controversial, but it is what it is. That's my opinion, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm just here to tell you what I think. And other than that, guys, have a good day.
Peace out.